These are all grave injustices which it is my duty to put to rights. No doubt. Now, if you could just take a few more steps. There's the coach, over there. And indeed, he was steering me towards a blurry, vaguely coach-like form. Soon, we'll be with Kareem, and you can tell him all about how you want to conquer the world. Do you think he would help? I'm certain he would. Napoleon and Alexander the Great will, you know. I think I saw them with the dancing piggies, inside the pub. Of course you did. They'll help you, and they'll help me put you into the chaise, and we will drive away to somewhere where we can make plans for world domination. Spiffing. Yes, Mr. Linton, very, spiffing, indeed. We were about halfway to the chaise now. My eyes had gotten used to the darkness outside the pub by now, and I could see the fuzzy figure of Kareem advancing towards us. Were you successful, Sahib? A muscle in Mr. Ambrose's temple twitched. No, I was not. He shot me a look. But we still know where we have to go next. Forgive me, Sahib, I do not understand. And I'm not in the mood to explain right now. We're leaving, of course, Sahib, as you command. I would have to learn the commanding tone, I thought, if I was going to conquer the world. Maybe Mr. Ambrose could teach me. Kareem was just about to start back towards the chaise, when he suddenly tensed and held up his hand. Mr. Ambrose froze, and I stumbled right into him, getting a mouthful of his jacket collar. MPF, WTF. Silence, Kareem hissed. I could have sworn. He cut off as, suddenly, men appeared out of the darkness around us in a semicircle. There was a glint of sharp metal in the gloom. Look what we've got here, said a sneering voice out of the shadows. We've been looking for you, gents. Fighting spirit. One of the men stepped forward, or maybe two or three. It was all kind of blurry to me, but there was something sharp glinting in their hands, I could see that much. The sight sent a cold chill through me which, for now, brought me back to earth. For the first time, I realized these men might possibly not be here to join the little yellow piggies in the dance routine. But what else could they be here for? The man with the knife smiled at Mr. Ambrose, who was still wearing Warren's dirty jacket and cap. Can't say I can see what's so special about you. Can you, men? There was a round of guffaws from the other dark shapes. Even my befuddled brain realized, the man who had spoken was the leader. The others were his henchmen, and they were all carrying knives. Bloody heck, they hadn't come to slaughter the dancing yellow piggies, had they? If so, I would defend them with my last breath. You look like something that's crawled out of the gutter, apart from that pretty face of yours, the man spat. Well, pretty boy, I think you've stepped on the toes of some high and mighty people hereabouts. We was told by some posh bloke you needed a reminder of who was in charge. Mr. Ambrose regarded the other man as if he were a cockroach not worth stepping on. He apparently wasn't pleased that they had come to kill the dancing piggies, either. My heart went out to him with a warmth that I didn't know it possessed for any man. He would save the cute little yellow ones, I was sure. Indeed, his voice was as cold as ever, and I reveled in it. And what was the name of that gentleman who thought I required such a reminder, if I may inquire? My, you talk mighty fine. The piggy murderer smirked. Well, as I sees it, you won't have no need to know his name. You'll be dead soon enough. Laughing again, the men came closer. On some level one knew that should worry me. But the dancing yellow piggies, completely unaware of the danger, had suddenly appeared on the wall of the house opposite me, and I couldn't stand for them to be so near the danger. Anger boiled up inside me. Who cared about some men with thingies? Knives. Yes, that's what they were called. Who cared about some men with knives? Anyway, while artistically talented, cute little animals were in danger. The men stepped closer again. The knives glinted. Kareem. Mr. Ambrose's voice was so low I hardly heard it. Yes, Sahib. On my command. Yes, Sahib. Mr. Ambrose concentrated on the leader, wielding his voice like a whip. So, this, rich bloke, as you choose to call him, did he give you any information about me besides my description? Any indication who he was sending you off to attack? The man's step faltered for a second. No, why? His voice was suspicious. Mr. Ambrose nodded curtly. That explains it. That explains what? The leader spat. Why you came with so few men, Mr. Ambrose told him. Too few. He brought his hands up and together, and a sharp clap echoed through the alley. Now, more shapes appeared out of the darkness all around us, behind the thugs. At first I thought they might be Napoleon or Alexander the Great, coming to help me conquer the world, but they were men in workmen's and sailors' gear, with grim, determined looks on their faces and knives in their hands. Several of them held glinting objects that weren't knives. I didn't realize what they were until one of the men raised his weapon and a thunderclap tore the air between the dirty East End houses. Yay, the cavalry of piggy protectors had arrived. Light flashed as the gun went off, and I stumbled backwards against Mr. Ambrose, startled by the light. Two hard arms gripped me around the waist and swung me around, depositing me behind somebody's back, as more gunshots went off. Who? I mumbled. Warren's men. A familiar, cold voice hissed next to my ear. Now be quiet. You don't want to draw attention to yourself. Mr. Ambrose. It was Mr. Ambrose who had shoved me behind his back. Was he protecting me? Surely, that was not an efficient use of his time and resources. After all, a disgustingly rich financier was surely worth more pounds sterling than a rebellious little female such as myself. And anyway, there were others who needed protection more than I. I looked around searchingly for any of the yellow piggies, but they seemed to have gone for now. Very wise. Warren's men. I mumbled drowsily, trying to make sense of what was going on. I had thought this was the official piggy protection squad, arrived just in time. But, you sent him away. I sent Warren away. The men stayed. Standard security procedure. Now belt up. He was half dragging, half pushing me away from the fight and towards the chaise. I dug my heels into the ground, looking around for my piggy dance troupe. Maybe there were some stragglers we had to bring with us. What are you doing? We have to get out of here. I'm looking for the yellow piggies, I explained, my voice a little slurred for some reason. Have you seen the yellow piggies? What? Suddenly, a figure appeared in front of us. I grinned broadly, thinking it was one of my little yellow dancers, but it was just a thug with a revolver in his hand. Dang. Look what we avenue here, he leered. I think. Without pausing, Mr. Ambrose brought up his knee and drove it between the man's legs. Gasping, he doubled over and dropped the revolver. Throwing him aside like a dirty dish rag, Mr. Ambrose pulled me behind a dysfunctional lamp post that stood halfway between the entrance to the pub and the waiting chaise, which he seemed to be intent on getting to for some reason. I wondered why. We had to stay here and fight and die bravely in defense of the piggies, didn't we? That's what Alexander and Napoleon were doing, and from what I'd just seen, Mr. Ambrose could give those two a run for their money. Interestedly, I looked back and forth between Mr. Ambrose, intent on the chaise, and the man who lay a few feet behind us, groaning on the ground. You just kicked those men in the, I hesitated. To be honest, I wasn't absolutely sure what parts of male anatomy lay in this particular spot. I just knew that kicking them was generally a very good idea. Yes, I did. Mr. Ambrose's voice was unconcerned. He didn't take his eyes off the chaise for a moment, waiting for his opportunity. But you're a gentleman. Yes, in all parts, Mr. Linton. I see. I didn't really, but I would never have admitted that. When I tell you to run, Mr. Ambrose hissed, you run. His eyes roamed the darkness as if they could pierce it by sheer force of will. 3, 2, 1, run. We darted from behind the lamp post, racing across the street towards the dark silhouette of the chaise. The beast of a grey horse was still standing where we had left it, apparently completely unconcerned by the fact that bullets were flying around its ears. Around us, men were fighting and dying. The chaise came nearer and nearer. 20 yards. 15. 10. Another man appeared in front of us, and I sprang forward immediately. I wasn't about to be outdone by Mr. Ambrose. Quickly, I raised my foot and kicked out. The figure ducked away, and I heard Kareem's deep voice, cursing. Keen Araka, what are you doing, Ifrit? Oh, it's you, I'm S. Before I could finish, he pushed me aside and reached for the saber at his belt. I saw a glint of metal and heard a scream out of the darkness. Something wet sprayed my face. Strange, I mused. It isn't raining, is it? Then another flash of gunfire illuminated the alley and I saw that it was raining. It was raining red stuff. How funny. That meant the yellow piggies would have red spots at the end of the evening. That would look really spiffing. Quickly, Sahib. Kareem had drawn his own gun now, a longish thing of glinting metal and dark wood, and he was firing quickly and precisely. Go, there are more coming. Then let us face them. I yelled, waving a fist in the air. My strength is as the strength of 10 because my heart is pure. Somebody grabbed me again and dragged me away. Let go of me, I yelled and struggled. Have you gone completely insane? I heard Mr. Ambrose's burning cold voice in my ear. Be quiet, and we may get out of this alive. Ignoring my protest, he dragged me farther towards the coach. Behind me, I heard Kareem shouting war cries in a language I didn't know. Well, at least he would stay behind to protect the piggies. That might be enough. We had almost reached the chaise when the gang leader jumped out from behind the horse and raised his gun to point directly at Mr. Ambrose's chest. Who the hell are you? He snarled. Where did these buggers come from? There was fear flickering in his wild eyes, and they didn't stay trained on his target like they should have. His men were more numerous, but Warren's so-called associates were fighting like trained soldiers. Maybe that's what they were. A private army trained for the defense of dancing animals. I was so proud of them. I see your employer failed to inform you who you were dealing with. The cold in Mr. Ambrose's voice was so intense that I was surprised not to see the gang leader freeze on the spot. The leader cocked his gun. Tell your men to stop fighting, or I'll put a bullet through your chest. He snarled. Now. Mr. Ambrose shrugged. Very well, I'll give the signal. He raised a hand and gave a short, sharp wave. The gang leader smiled. Suddenly, the giant grey horse behind him reared up on its hind legs, kicking out wildly. With a strangled scream, the gang leader was thrown forward onto the cobblestones. A red puddle formed around his head. Just not the signal you want, Mr. Ambrose told the corpse. In a flash, he had dragged me past the dead man and to the chaise and pushed me inside. Good boy. He patted the horse on the neck, and for a moment I thought I saw the hint of a smile on his face. But no, that couldn't be. You there, he yelled, on the box, now. One of Warren's men, who had just finished off another of the thugs, rushed to do his master's bidding and swung himself onto the box. Quickly, he grabbed the whip and cracked it over the horse's head. Gee up. Mr. Ambrose managed to jump into the chaise just in time. It took off down the street at an alarming speed. Dark houses rushed past us, and the screams behind us grew fainter and fainter. Slowly, I sank back into the old upholstery. Through the dreamy haze that surrounded my brain, I began to realize something. I've just been in a gunfight, I said lazily. It was getting really hard to keep my eyes open. You certainly have, a cool voice said next to me. There was a short silence. Then the cool voice continued. I suppose you now understand what kind of situation you signed up for. I shall of course understand that you wish to leave your post. I shall have all the necessary resignation papers prepared for you in the morning. You will have to come to sign. I've just been in a gunfight, I repeated, not really listening to whoever was speaking. Listening was so difficult. Yes, you said that already. About the resignation papers, a gunfight. That's spiffing. I giggled. Another pause. Then, the cool voice said, not quite so cool anymore. It is what? Spiffing. Top hole. You might even say. Tickety-boo. I giggled again. I just wish I'd had a gun, too. That would have been even more top hole. I could have put some holes into other people. Top hole holes. The little piggies would have been proud. I nudged the fellow with the cool voice in the ribs. What was his name again? I couldn't remember right now. There was a stifled groan from the dark. Wasn't I supposed to know this groaner with the cool voice? If only I could remember his name. His name. Of course, Mr. Ambrose. He had dragged me through the gunfight. Mr. Ambrose, who had fought in defense of the little yellow piggies. How romantic. I giggled again. My hero, I drawled, leaning against him. You rescued me. A frown spread over my face. Although, now that I think about it, I actually didn't want to be rescued. I wanted to stay there and join the fight. Exactly why you needed rescuing, he responded dryly. Suddenly, I noticed that his arm, which had been around my shoulders the whole time he dragged me towards the chaise, was around my shoulders still. Why, and why was it suddenly gripping me so tightly? You are incorrigible, Mr. Linton, he told me, his voice low, tight, controlled. Why didn't you do as I told you to? Why, once in your life, didn't you do the sensible thing and run? My frown deepened into a scowl. The men didn't run. They fought, because that's what they're paid to do. You're paid to stay alive. To stay safe. I'm no coward, I growled. I'm as good as any man. And the little piggies needed me. Excuse me, the what? What pigs? I rolled my eyes. He was incapable of grasping the simplest, most logical concepts. He didn't even understand dancing yellow pigs. Typical man. But for some reason, leaning against this annoying man also felt comforting. Somehow, I had slipped sideways, and my head had come to rest against his chest. It felt firm, and oh so warm. But that couldn't be, could it? It was Mr. Ambrose. Mr. Ambrose was as cold as ice. Surely he would feel icy and hard, not so warm and reassuring. Do you think the little piggies will be all right? I murmured, my eyes drifting closed. I felt very drowsy all of a sudden, and so comfortable. I'm sure they will, he whispered reassuringly, his hand squeezing my shoulder. I'm sure they will. The last thing I felt before darkness swallowed me up was a hand on my cheek, stroking gently. Hallucination manicure. Mr. Linton. Mr. Linton, wake up. We have to go inside. Why? I mumbled, unwilling to open my eyes. Because I say so. I chuckled. I knew that voice. Cold, commanding, not good enough, I murmured. You are still in my employ, Mr. Linton. You have to do what I say. Not after hours, sir. A yawn escaped me. Talking was tiring business. Maybe I should just go back to sleep. I was lying on something so comfortable. The comfortable thing shifted and grabbed me. If you don't get up, Mr. Linton, I'm going to carry you. Either way, you will get out of this chaise. Oh, Mr. Ambrose. It was Mr. Ambrose I was lying on. How had that happened? I was sure he hadn't volunteered to be my personal sofa. Did you hear me, Mr. Linton? I will drag you out of here, whether you want to or not. For a moment I considered letting him do it. Truth be told, I felt too warm and fuzzy to think about walking. Being carried might actually be nice. However, the moment that thought of weakness popped into my head, the vigilant feminist inside me reasserted herself. I might utilize men as a couch. I might even allow them to pay me wages. But the day I allowed a man to carry me in his arms because I felt too unsteady on my poor little feminine feet would be the day I publicly confessed to being a chimpanzee. Never. Ever. Blindly I groped around, grabbing Mr. Ambrose and pushing myself into a sitting position. Be careful with my coat, Mr. Linton. It's only 10 years old and still in mint condition. I nodded. Yes, I know. You've told me before. I'm not stupid, you know. Maybe not, but you are drunk. Drunk? Me? Of course I'm not drunk. Outraged, I staggered out of the chaise. How dare he suggest such a thing? I was stone cold sober, and I had plenty of witnesses to the fact. Grasping the carriage wheel to support me, I pointed with my free hand at the yellow piggy sitting beside the driver. Ask him over there, if you don't believe me. Me? The driver looked taken aback. Well, sir, I could not hazard a guess as to. Not you, the pig. Pig? What pig? The driver's nervousness seemed to increase. What was the matter with him? A yellow pig wasn't something you could miss easily, was it? Forget it, Godwin. Mr. Ambrose appeared beside me. With a jerk of his head, he indicated to the driver and the yellow piggy that they should leave. Take the chaise away and care for the horse. He was obviously bent on ignoring my logical arguments. So typically male. Yes, sir, only, the driver hesitated. What about the other men, sir? I should go back and. Warren will have reached the tavern by now with all the reinforcements he could muster. Mr. Ambrose cut him off. Do as you're told. I and Mr. Linton will go inside now. Yes, sir, as you wish, sir. Climbing from the box, the driver and the yellow piggy started doing Mr. Ambrose's bidding, leading the horse and carriage away. The power of this man was unbelievable. Even little yellow animals were under his power, even though I was sure they weren't on his payroll. Come along. Mr. Ambrose strode ahead, gesturing for me to follow with a flick of his fingers. Taking a cautious step forward, I lifted my head, and my eyes widened in shock. Before me stood the vast, gaunt facade of Empire House. The chaise had deposited us in Leadenhall Street, right in front of Mr. Ambrose's business headquarters. Like the bow of a gargantuan wreck in the dark depth of the ocean, the two-columned portico loomed up in front of me, white and ghostly. Ornate gas lanterns were spread out all along the street, throwing the yellowish light across the empty street. The whole scene looked even colder now than it had in daylight. What were we doing here? Why wasn't I at my own home? I was sure I had one of those, tucked away somewhere in London. My eyes flicked to Mr. Ambrose. Honestly, surprisingly enough, he had not strode ahead, ignoring me. Instead, he was waiting for me at the foot of the stairs, tapping his foot on their foot in impatience. I smiled. His foot on their foot. That sounded funny. Leisurely, I strolled towards him. With fuzzy curiosity, I gestured up at the towering monument of Mammon above me. Why here? I asked, directing my unsteady smile at Mr. Ambrose. I don't live here, not that I'm aware of, anyway, I added, as an afterthought. Nothing seemed to be too sure, lately. Do I? Mr. Ambrose's face was hidden in shadow, his voice as terse as ever. No, you don't, but I thought I would bring you here first and give you the chance to clean up. Unless you want to go home in blood-spattered clothes, that is. What? He gestured, and I looked down at myself. Even in the pale light of the gas lamps, It was undeniable that the upper part of my uncle's old tailcoat had distinct signs of red on it. If they weren't blood spatters, they were the experiment of a deranged tomato enthusiast. Hell's whiskers. A giggle escaped me. That looks dashed nifty. Nifty, is it? The dark figure of Mr. Ambrose took a step towards me. You consider blood spattered all over your clothes nifty. Maybe even chic. You have interesting fashion tastes, Mr. Linton. Why, thank you, sir. I bowed and nearly toppled over. Strong arms caught me and put me upright again. Still, his cool voice continued, I doubt your aunt shares your tastes in that direction. Thoughtfully, I tugged at my lower lip. He might be right about that. Aunt Brank was often completely unreasonable in regard to modern fashion. Might be interesting to see her reaction, though. I giggled again. The look on her face would undoubtedly be a sight to be seen. Still, in the interest of secrecy, I would advise against it. Oh, all right, don't be such a stick in the mud. He turned. I assure you I am not in the habit of sticking sticks into mud, Mr. Linton. Follow me. Marching up the stairs, he pulled a ring of keys out of his coat pocket. I had never before met anyone who could truly march on stairs, not without breaking their toes, anyway, but he managed it just fine. He reached the door well ahead of me and had unlocked it in a jiffy. The huge wooden doors squealed like the tortured souls of the undead as they were pushed open. I looked around with interest, just in case some of the tortured souls of the undead happened to be around and wanted to swap recipes, but there was only Alexander the Great, atop his horse, winking at me from the other side of the street. Nighty-night, Alexander, conquer Persia for me, I called, waving to him energetically, until Mr. Ambrose grabbed me and pushed me towards the door. Hey, there's no need to be so rough, I protested, resisting his grasp. I was only being polite. To a hallucination, and you were waking the whole street up in the process, which is not a good idea. Or have you forgotten that the headquarters of the East India Company is right across the street? I furrowed my brow in concentration. For some reason, I was sure that was important, but I couldn't for the life of me remember why. Well, no, I explained, and started grinning again. It was easy to grin right now, and very difficult to frown. Actually, I hadn't forgotten. I just don't care. I mean, Alexander the Great conquered parts of India, right? He's surely not afraid of some stuffy old company board members. Mr. Linton. Yes, sir. We need to get you inside. Yes, sir. Why, sir? Without answering, he renewed his grip and began to push me forward again. This time, I didn't react fast enough, and he managed to maneuver me through the entrance into the darkness of the hall beyond. Why do we have to go? I demanded, trying to push my heels into the ground. But it was no use. My shoes just slipped on the polished stone floor. I was talking to Alexander the Great. That didn't seem to make Mr. Ambrose want to let me go, the ill-bred lout. Didn't he know you couldn't behave like that to an emperor? We have go back. I didn't get to say goodbye properly. We can't go back. We have to go upstairs, and you have to sit down. Why? Because you are drunk, Mr. Lin. I'm not. Just ask the yellow piggies. There was a pause. Well, then let's just say that I'm not on the best of terms with Alexander the Great. I wish to avoid him, if possible. Oh, now this was interesting news, and my curiosity spiked immediately. Why's that? There were a few moments of contemplative silence. He kicked my favorite dog once. Really, sir? We had reached the other end of the hall by now. There, the floor suddenly vanished, and instead there were these angular thingamies. What were they called again? Yes, really, Mr. Linton. And a very harsh kick it was. Oh yes, steps. Pride flooded through me. I had actually managed to remember what steps were called. And Mr. Ambrose thought I was drunk. Ha, I'd show him. I took a confident step forward, and a hand shot out to grab me. No, not those stairs, Mr. Linton. Those lead to the cellars, that's why the steps go down. We want to go to my office and need to find some stairs that go up. I pondered this. He might actually be right, I finally decided. How clever, sir, I would never have thought of that. Indeed. Somehow, another staircase appeared in front of me. Had he pushed me around again? I decided, just this once, to let it go without protesting. My mind was engaged on a much more serious and enthralling topic than stairs, anyway. You have a pet dog? I asked, the incredulity clear in my voice. He hesitated. I could feel it. He didn't like to give anything away, be it money or personal information. 2. He finally snapped. From what I could see of his face in the dark, it was as impassive as the stone I set my feet on. But, aren't dogs expensive, sir? I nudged him in the ribs, grinning. Really expensive, from what I heard. Why waste money on pets that don't do anything useful? They do something useful. They bite people I don't like. Oh. He gripped my arm again. Stop, don't try to go any higher, there are no more steps. Oh really? I blinked into the gloom. I hadn't noticed. Yes, now we have to go down the hallway. Here, down this hallway, you see. We're almost there. Down, no problem at all, sir. I didn't mean lie down, I mean walk down. My office is over there. You can rest there. He stopped me in time before I could rest my head on the floor of the hallway. Honestly, had I lain down there, I would not have been able to get up again. Despite the fact that I was definitely not drunk, I felt effects which, to the amateur eye, might look considerably like drunkenness. With unusual gentleness, Mr. Ambrose helped me up again and maneuvered me to his office door. There, he took me by both shoulders and looked sternly down into my eyes. I have to unlock the door now, and for that I have to let go of you, Mr. Linton. Do you think you can stand upright on your own long enough for me to do that? I blinked up at him, deeply curious. I would never have thought that he cared whether I keeled over or not, except perhaps that he might regard me bashing my head in on the stone floor as a very beneficial occurrence. But here he was, looking down at me with, well, it wasn't exactly concern. It wasn't as if he looked at me like I was someone he cared for. Instead, he stared at me like I was a priceless object in his possession, and he was expressly forbidding me to damage myself and thus lessen my value. I must admit, I muttered, bracing myself against the doorframe, I feel a tiddly little bit unsteady on my feet. I looked around for help and smiled. Hey, Napoleon, come over and help me, your imperial menagerie, while he gets the door open. For some reason, my application for help to the Emperor, who was leaning against the wall next to me, cleaning his nails with a dagger, didn't seem to alleviate Mr. Ambrose's concerns. He just doubled his efforts to get the door open as quickly as possible. Maybe he had a beef with Napoleon, too, not just with Alexander. These powerful tyrants were always at each other's throats. There, the door swung open, and Mr. Ambrose grasped my arm again. Get in and sit down, will you? Why not lie down on the floor out here? I asked, blinking back longingly at the hallway. For some reason its stone floor looked a lot more comfortable than stone floors usually did. It felt soft, too, and was wobbling under my feet like a mattress. I could keep the Emperor company. He'll manage just fine without you. Come in, please, you need to rest. My ears needed cleaning. Did I just hear Mr. Ambrose say please? And that in what could almost be described as a gentle tone of voice, compared to the deep frozen tyrant's voice he usually employed. A moment later, he squeezed my shoulder. Please, holy moly, miracles did happen. Almost involuntarily, I started forward. Under his firm but gentle guidance, I stumbled into the room. This was becoming a very strange night. Maybe I really had drunk a tiny bit too much of that burning stuff. Inside, the office was dark. Mr. Ambrose reached to his left. There was a soft noise, and the shimmering light of a gas lamp illuminated the room with a warm, golden glow, throwing long shadows against the walls. Suddenly, the office, so stark in daylight, looked totally different. Well, will you look at that? A broad smile spread over my face as I spread my arms in an attempt to hug the room. Mr. Ambrose ducked just in time to not be cuffed around the ears. It looks almost cozy. Now all you need is a carpet on the floor and a couple of nice pictures on the walls. Mr. Ambrose rose out of his crouch again, which, Mr. Linton, would be a needless waste of time and money. Oh, come on, don't you ever feel the urge to make this place a little less cold? No, I have a very warm cloak, should I need it? I was speaking metaphorically, I was aware of that. Half turning to the door, he kicked it shut behind us. Metaphors, Mr. Linton, are also a waste of time and money. Bah, with your attitude, I'm surprised you have gas light in the house. It's supposed to be pretty expensive. Much less expensive than the hospital bill for running headlong into a stone wall in the dark, I assure you. He sounded as if he had made the experiment. We were still standing at the door. Neither of us seemed to know what to do, where to go next, now that we had reached our destination. Suddenly, the floor gave a lurch and threw me to the side. I knew it. I knew that the floor out in the hallway would have been much nicer to me than the evil floor in here. The floor in here seemed to have it in for me, personally. It didn't stop, but kept quaking underneath my feet, while Mr. Ambrose seemed to have no problems whatsoever remaining upright. Quickly, he was at my side and had an arm around my waist. I could feel his strong muscles brushing against me, pulling me close. Then he stiffened. Excuse me, his voice was oddly strained. I shouldn't be touching you like this. I only meant to. Well, I'll let go soon. Only let me help you to a chair. Don't let go, I muttered, groggily. Feels nice. And it did feel nice, having his arm around me. It wasn't like we were the only ones doing it, either. Two yellow piggies on the other side of the room had their arms, or were those legs, around each other. Mr. Linton, You can call me Lily, if you want, I offered, not managing to keep a grin off my face. Funny, I didn't usually smile this much. But if you did, you'd admit I'm a girl, which you don't want. So maybe Victor. No, I have it. A giggle escaped me. Call me Ifrit. I heard a strange noise. A noise I would have never expected to hear in this place. Was it really? Was that a chuckle? From him? Had Mr. Ambrose, Mr. Rickard don't waste time with idle frivolities Ambrose actually laughed? Or had it been one of the yellow piggies? My little Ifrit, he murmured almost inaudibly, tightening his grip around me. I could feel the reverberations of the chuckle through my whole body. It felt really nice, being held by him like this. I felt safe and warm and, for once, not at war with the rest of the world. Yes, I'm an Ifrit, I confessed to him in a whisper. You were quite right. I didn't really believe you in the beginning, but now, well, you can see for yourself. See what? For some reason, he sounded confused. Why, my huge fiery wings, of course. Aren't they beautiful? So sparkly and pretty. I pointed up to where my wings almost brushed the ceiling. They were a marvel to behold. It was nearly incomprehensible that I hadn't noticed them before tonight. Maybe it was because I had never much been interested in how I looked before. But tonight, alone in this room with him, I was suddenly glad there was something undeniably beautiful about me, even if I remembered vaguely that a pair of huge fiery wings wasn't exactly a traditional sign of female beauty. Don't you think they're pretty, sir? I sighed. Well, yes, of course, very pretty. He thought my wings were pretty. He actually thought my wings were pretty. I should jump off the roof to see if I can fly with them, I suggested eagerly. Wouldn't you like to see me fly? Abruptly, his grip around my waist became tight as a vice. Maybe not right now. You're surely tired from being up the entire night. How about tomorrow, if you still feel like jumping off the roof then? I pouted, but I want to do it now. It'll be fun. Personally, I'm not quite sure about that. Would you sleep on it? Please, there was that word again. That word that Mr. Ambrose never used. All right, sighing contentedly, I wrapped my arms and also my huge fiery wings around him. The little piggies in the corner had started to dance tango. I'll do anything for you. Ahem, I am gratified to hear it. Now, how about sitting down, if you want? He led me to the middle of the room, to where the visitor chair stood in front of the desk. As I moved closer to the desk, the light of the lamp fell on me, and Mr. Ambrose's eyes widened. Wait just a minute, he exclaimed. Don't sit down just yet. Your coat. But he had already let go of me, and my legs somehow were unable to support my own weight. I was about to fall into the chair when his hands shot out and held me back. Are you insane? He hissed. I said, wait, look at yourself. You can't sit down like this. Take your tailcoat off, first. It is spattered with blood and street dirt. Have you got any idea how much it costs to clean the upholstery on a chair like this? I blinked up at him, confused. Not really, no. Too much for me to be willing to pay it. That doesn't say much, I pointed out. My point, Mr. Linton, is that if you try to sit down on that chair again, I will bring you back outside into the hallway and dump you on the floor, just like you asked me to earlier. So he felt more concern for the upholstery of his office chair than for me. It was nice to see he hadn't changed that much. I realized that in stopping me from sitting down, Mr. Ambrose had grabbed onto me a lot more generously than before. He had both arms around me now and was pressing me to his chest with the fervor of a man determined to avoid a large bill from the cleaners. He must have been really anxious to avoid that bill, because instead of letting go of me when my legs had steadied a bit, he pulled me even tighter against him. Though my vision was slightly blurred, I could see the hard lines of his face perfectly well. His jaw was taut, which only accentuated the noble harshness of his features. His eyes were boring down into mine, full of dark intensity. Do not sit down. His voice was actually hoarse. Dear me, cleaning the upholstery of a chair had to be more expensive than I thought if he could get this worked up about it. He didn't let go. But, then what am I supposed to do? My voice wasn't too steady either, and, I didn't want me to sit down any more than he did. I didn't want him to let go. Odd, I didn't have to fear a big bill from the cleaners, did I? He cleared his throat. You can take off your tailcoat. Then you can sit down. Mr. Linton. The, Mr. came over his lips with no slight hesitation. Was that because he was still calculating the cleaner's bill, or did it have something to do with the way we were pressed together, so closely it had to be evident that, Mr. was not the correct address for the person he was holding in his arms? I, for my part, felt enough so I would never have called him, Miss Ambrose. The hard muscles of his chest, his arms, his abdomen. They all pressed into my softness in a way that made it all too clear what he was. A man. A really manly man with a lot of mannishness in his manliness. As if of their own volition, my arms snaked up behind and around him. My head found a comfortable spot on his chest and came to rest there. All of a sudden, I didn't care about any cleaner's bill. I certainly didn't care to sit down. To sit down, I would have had to let go. Take it off, I mumbled. Beneath my ear that lay on his chest, I could hear his heart. I wondered why it was beating so fast. Take my tailcoat off. Good idea. Only, I'm not sure I can stand on my own. I feel so tired. Gently, hesitantly, he reached up to unwind my arms from behind his back. I'll help you, don't worry. He stepped back from me, and somewhere inside me I felt a tug of disappointment. Disappointment. Why, what did I care whether he was close to me? But then he started unbuttoning my tailcoat, and the disappointment vanished. It was replaced by a surge of heat up from my toes to the tips of my ears. What was the matter with me? It had to be the drink, or terror of the cleaner's bill. Gently, his fingers traveled up my belly, popping buttons as they went. His fingers were unlike any other fingers that had ever touched me there, smooth and yet firm, light and yet insistent. I realized suddenly that they weren't just unlike any other fingers that had touched me there before, apart from my sister's and my own, they were the only fingers that had ever touched me there. They made me wish for more buttons on my coat, for something to prolong the feel of this. The feel of him. Then, the tailcoat slid off my shoulders and landed on the floor with a soft, velvety noise. I stood before Mr. Ambrose in nothing but trousers and a thin linen shirt. Drowsily, I looked down at the shirt. Oh, I mumbled, and pointed to the left side of the shirt, where a few specks of blood stained the white material. The blood must have seeped through the coat. Do you want to take the shirt off, too? From somewhere, I heard a strangled groan. When I looked up, Mr. Ambrose was standing before me, his face as composed as ever, but his jaw seemed to be a bit tighter than usual. I don't think, he said, that will be necessary, thank you. But it's got blood on it. I protested. I should take it off. The upholstery on your chair will be perfectly fine, Mr. Linton. Now sit down. For once, I did as he said. My legs didn't feel all too steady, and even Alexander the Great, who had sneaked in behind us unnoticed, was sitting down in a corner of the room. Surely, if a world-famous conqueror was sitting down, that meant that I could, too. Mr. Ambrose bent to retrieve my tailcoat from the floor. Straightening, he said, I will give your clothes to the night porter. He will have them washed and dried soon enough. I squinted at him, doubtfully. He's a porter. Does he know how to wash clothes? Probably not, but I demand ingenuity and dedication of all my employees. Turning, he marched towards the door without another word. Was it just my imagination, or did he walk just a little faster than usual, almost as if he were running? At the door, he hesitated. I'll be back soon, he said. Then he fled, slamming the door behind him. Suppressing a yawn, I nodded to Alexander in the corner. I think he really doesn't like you, I told him. The Macedonian conqueror shrugged and started cleaning his fingernails.